Somebody that has been working alongside Steve Kaplan for a number of years as a member of some of the auxiliary boards in West Bloomfield, and most recently from his position of leadership as chairperson with the West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation Commission, is Robert Brooks. He joins us now on the Splash Live for more reaction to this massive news in West Bloomfield today. Robert, thank you for being with us.
Tyler, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Glad to have you on what is a momentous occasion here. It's a big paradigm shift at West Bloomfield Town Hall. For almost, at this point, 25 years, Steve Kaplan's been serving as a trustee and on the board, and now most recently in the last 8 years as a supervisor. What was your initial reaction as the department heads and the chairpeople of the commissions got word, as you did around the same time we did, that Steve Kaplan would be exiting his office as supervisor?
Quite honestly, I have to say that I've known Steve now for about 15 years, and I wasn't so surprised, honestly, because I know him well. He really enjoys what he was doing in the prosecutor's office in the past. I think after 8 years of service to our township, I believe that his heart was still in trying out and being back in the role of working in the prosecutor's office. He has a personality that opens up to people. He likes to be funny of sorts at times. Some people don't know how to take that. But I really believe from our friendship that Steve loves helping people. And I think in a prosecutor's office, you have to take the stance of understanding people. And I think Steve does a good job at doing that.
And how does that then, Robert, reflect his ability to lead the township as he has over the last 8 years as township supervisor, beginning in 2016, taking over at a time that was frankly a bit of tumult on that board, and bringing them back to a point where it's really cohesive as we stand in 2024?
So he had a tall task ahead of him when he took over as a township supervisor. He always seems to go after everything he does with his utmost care. He cares about people. Now, some would say he sometimes bends too far one way or the other, but I always think that he's always looking to make people see the best in each other and to get along. And that's tough to do sometimes when you have adversity. And so Steve, over these, from 2016 to 2024, those 8 years, really did an awesome job in trying to get people to understand one another. He wasn't, I'll say, overly liked by everybody, which I don't think any of us are, but he made his stand on our township. He would do anything for a resident that called to try to make that resident understand that the township, and in his role, was working for them. And so he just always opened his heart to people. And I think in any role that he takes on in his lifetime, he's going to continue to do that. I still want to call and will call Steve my friend. And he's been a great colleague in the township over many years. As he was the liaison to our West Bloomfield Parks Commission, he brought information in, he shared it, and he always gave us the leading soundboard of what's going on in the township. If, for instance, some of our commissioners on the Parks Board were not aware of some of the things going on specifically in the township, he would let us know the highlights, the headlines, and he would keep us abreast. We're going to truly miss Steve Kaplan.
Robert Brooks is with us. He is the chairperson of the West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation Commission. On the Splash Live, we have breaking news, of course, today, beginning our program as Steve Kaplan, Township Supervisor in West Bloomfield, has announced he will be exiting his office in early December. His final meeting will be December 2nd. That is a full meeting of the West Bloomfield Township Board of Trustees, where that process will begin of replacing him as supervisor, as Jake Schaff from our team mentioned on the program. That's going to be a 45-day opening for the board to appoint a new supervisor and then move on from there. And later on, that supervisor position, that term would then last until the midterm elections in 2026, where the public would then vote a new supervisor into office full-time. With us again, Robert Brooks from the West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation Commission. Now, you've served as the chairperson of that commission for many years at this point, Robert. You've also been a chairperson of other boards and commissions and participated through the years. And so as you reflect on Steve's leadership and his interpersonal interactions, what maybe have you picked up or tried to emulate in your leadership over these years after working with Steve and others?
So our township tries to give the diversity of our community all a seat at the table. And I think Steve has always tried to do that in all that he's done. And so at least that's what I've picked up. And so I try to do the same thing. We're strategic of sorts on our boards and commissions. I initially joined the Woodlands Commission. I was appointed in 2010, I believe. And I served on that commission. It then got put together with the Wetlands Commission and became the Environmental Commission. I thought that I would get a break of sorts. And oddly enough, I wound up also serving on the Environmental Commission when it got put together and served there. I think it was for 8 to 10 years, recently coming off of that about 4 years ago. But since I've served as chair, and the chair is kind of a rotating seat of sorts, because every year in the Recreation Parks Commission, we get together and we move that around. We have people who have skills, varied levels on our Parks and Rec Commission, and we try to make sure that leadership is shown through whoever wants to take the position on. So I'm honored and humbled to be selected as the chair of the Parks Commission. I don't take it lightly. I have done my best to mentor the leadership and all the staff. I have tried to install processes as an encourager of those processes that keeps our parks to be the very best in Michigan and keeps our recreation programs fresh, up to date. So with that said, I think Steve does the same thing with the township. The township has a number of different departments, and Steve has made those departments much better over his 8-year time. I think if we look across the departments that he's had an interaction with, he encourages, supports, and gets out of the way. And I think that's something that I try to emulate as well, that I've watched him do, is the getting out of the way part and let people be successful as teams. And I got to tell you, in West Bloomfield, we have the best staff members across the township, as well as the different commissions. And if we let them truly show their capabilities, we can and will continue to be the very best in Michigan.
And we look at the staff at West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation and all the work that they've done over the years, and with Kelly and Megan and Lauren and so many others, too many to name on just a 1-hour program like the Splash Live. That's a great reflection of that, as is Building and Development Services, Environmental, Planning and Zoning. We heard from so many of those leaders also as they reflected on Steve Kaplan's career at West Bloomfield Township. And we have great leaders that are going to be remaining in place on that township board. Our other electeds, Debbie Binder in the clerk's office, Terry Weingarten in the treasurer's office. But there is still a bit of a changing of the guard that's happening now. Howard Rosenberg exiting the board after 16 years serving there, now replaced by the public with Vincent Kirkwood, who you're very familiar with on that board, and Dale Young will take over just after the beginning of the year as the new chief of police. So there is a bit of a changing of the guard, but a lot of that leadership still staying in place. So as you think about this moment in our township in West Bloomfield, Robert, what are your hopes for the immediate future as we see new leaders emerge at some of the top levels and merge that leadership with the sustained leaders that we have continuing forward?
What I think special about West Bloomfield is that these leaders have come up through, I'll call it the ranks. And the ranks, as I see them, is shadowing in great leaders. And so you mentioned Vincent Kirkwood. Vincent, I believe, is going to be an outstanding trustee. He was elected and did very well. He is going to be bringing the voice of all of the culture and the people based on his past work with DEI across the township. But most importantly, he was a good leader and chair at one time, I believe, of our Parks Commission. And I think that leadership will continue. When I look at folks like Dale Young coming up under Chief Patton, I have to just echo the same kinds of thoughts and applaud, because I think that when we have had people serve under great leaders, they themselves also can emulate that leadership and become the very best that they are. And so I think we as a community have not only rallied around what we can do together and be inclusive of all people, but we rally around people themselves and encourage people to be leaders so that our residents get the very best out of government and its means of helping them in the area of parks to enjoy life outside of their homes, in the area of recreation, to come together as people, learn about one another, and do activities together. So, and when I think about the township, there's so many services that go on there that, it's just something to behold, quite honestly.
Robert Brooks is with us, the chairperson of the West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation Commission. As we reflect on breaking news today, Steve Kaplan, our township supervisor in West Bloomfield, announcing that he will be exiting his office in early December to take a position as an assistant prosecutor in Kim Worthy's office in Wayne County. Robert, before we let you go, I've got one more minute with you here. I want to give you a chance to say your final words, your final reflections on this news that we've received today of Steve's exit from the supervisor's office.
Well, my final words would be more aligned to Steve as a family person. I've known Steve's wife longer than I've known Steve. When I got active, when my children were in the schools, with one of the kids programs where parents were helping kids, pretty much teaching them about things they should stay away from. And quite frankly, then when I met Steve, I realized that he was not just a family man. He was someone who really cared about those that he interfaced with. So I think that as a great leader in our community, he moving into Wayne County will bring great things there in the prosecutor's office. I look forward to his leadership there as well. But I got to tell you, Steve is still going to be active in our community. He loves our community. He has a love for his family. And I just salute the fact that I think he's going back to something that he really loves. He has had over 42 years as a licensed attorney. And my talks with him in confidentiality from time to time, he's just overly impressed me with his knowledge of the law. So I think that he'll do really well in an area that he really, truly loves on the career side.
I don't care what anyone else says. My only major requirement, outside of all the basics for the next township supervisor, they got to be able to name all the presidents, if not the presidents and the vice presidents, much like Steve. Robert Brooks with us on the Splash Live. Thank you so much for your time today, especially in this moment in our township's history.
Thanks for having me, Tyler. I appreciate it.